The Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, Whovians. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm your host, Charles Skaggs, and with me in the TARDIS once again, ready to talk some modern Who this week. My favorite partner in time, Jesse Jackson. Hi, Jesse. How are you?
Oh, Charles, that's so kind of you to say. You have had so many wonderful co-hosts as we do the guest host rotation. So I'm glad to know I'm still up there as one of your favorites.
Well, you're my OG partner in time, Jesse.
Hey,
so we started this podcast together and probably end it together. So
absolutely,
whenever that is, hopefully not far down the road. Hopefully
exactly.
That is. All right. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk here at episode 140. We're going to talk Dalek, the very first appearance of the Daleks in the modern era. And this was way back now, if you can believe it, 14 years ago. In 2005, this was the 6th episode of Series 1 that aired in 2005, written by Robert Shearman, who didn't write any other Doctor Who episodes for the TV series, but he's written a bunch for Big Finish, and he's written several Doctor Who novels and whatnot. He wrote the Sixth Doctor Big Finish adventure Jubilee, which this story is kind of influenced by, which features the Daleks. And then he also wrote the classic Eighth Doctor Big Finish audio, The Chimes of Midnight, which is regarded as one of Big Finish's best ever episodes. And then he also wrote some comic book work. He wrote the Ninth Doctor for Doctor Who Magazine's comic strip. Did the storyline The Cruel Sea. So if you want to check that out, if you want to get more of Robert Shearman, who does a really good job here. And this was directed by Joe Ahern. So, Jesse, this was one that I had suggested to you, and you seemed kind of enthused about talking about. So what did this story mean to you when you first watched it?
Oh, so see, that's what I was going to ask you, Charles.
Well,
so,
guess
okay,
what?
So
see, this,
yeah.
So
All
I
right.
just preempted you. Sorry about that.
So I was thinking that we would go your 3 points, and then this is what I wanted to talk about as well. So, boy, you jumped right to the dessert.
Yes. I'm trying to shake things up because I don't want
No, I love it.
We're too still in our format.
Yeah, so as a reminder to everyone, I came to Doctor Who via binging.
Yes.
I had watched Torchwood, and Ken Schaefer, take a drink, had lent me his Torchwood CDs. I watched them, loved them, and I said, I want to know more about this Captain Jack guy. Can you give me a couple of Doctor Who episodes that features him? And Ken said, look, it's just easier. I'm going to give you the sets because he's on multiple episodes, but you won't understand. And so
unless you watch them straight through.
Right.
Okay.
And I remember this was I wish, I am not a wonderful note taker, but I wish, I believe it was in December. It was during a holiday after Christmas. Nothing was going on. I had nothing important on the DVR. And I said, well, let me try this Doctor Who.
Okay.
So I put in, Rose.
Okay.
And so I binged through.
After watching Rose.
Yeah, I just, consistently, when I had free time, I put in a disc and watched it,
Okay.
And so when I got to this one, I recognized the Dalek, obviously, because you would have to be totally culture blind not to have seen it, in somewhere. Not the way it is now, but back then.
Even if you weren't familiar with the show, you at least knew that was an iconic character in Doctor Who.
So my first thought was, wow, the Doctor's afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's really afraid when he first sees him, and that's something we had not seen in this, in my experience. And you got to remember, I know nothing about the Doctor Who universe. And so I'm like, wow, okay. And then I was shocked how unforgiving he was, and how, because the Doctor's always looking for a way to make peace and a way to, find another way. And
that's one of the things I want to talk about when we get to our main segments
so
here.
I was really, really surprised, and liked it a lot. And then I had not seen it till last night. And I rewatched the episode.
So you hadn't watched it and watched this episode since way back when?
Right, exactly.
Wow, okay.
And oh my goodness, Charles.
Yeah.
Once you have a understanding of the Doctor Who mythos, oh my God, is this a multi-layered episode?
Right.
So that was the question I wanted to ask you. I liked it in 2005.
Yes. Right.
But I imagine your Doctor Who antenna, your happiness bone was just going to 11.
Well, I don't know about my happiness bone, but I was very excited about this. Obviously, I approached it from a classic fan standpoint, obviously. And for me, we hadn't seen the Daleks on screen since 1988 in the Remembrance of the Daleks episode. Wow. From the Sylvester McCoy era, way back then. We got them teased in the 1996 Paul McGann TV movie, but we only heard their voices, and even then, their voices were just completely off. They were just way too high of a register. They almost sounded like Munchkins, from the Wizard of Oz in that, when they were going exterminate, exterminate, really just not really menacing at all. Just more kind of like, wow, really? That's the Dalek voice you're going to give us? Okay. And then, so when word came out that we were finally going to see the Daleks in episode 6, it was just, there's that anticipation. There was a lot of anticipation among the fans. They're like, okay, what are they going to look like? Are they going to be as faithful? Are they going to be scary? Or are they going to look silly, here in 2005? And it was just such a welcome surprise with this story.
Yeah, so Charles, I always am fascinated, and you've shared this before, but if we are a new listener, I guess a new Doctor Who fan that has come in from the modern era, and let's say specifically, I know a lot of people jumped on board with the Matt Smith era.
Right.
That's specifically why they did that, as a jumping on point. And the same thing with Capaldi, and same with our latest Doctor. Well, no, I'm thinking Jodie Whittaker. Yeah. Each time they change the Doctor, as rightly so, they kind of widen the net because you want to get more viewers.
Right.
But for those who knew, we did not get the episode the same time as the guys in UK.
No. Back in the day, in the dark times before BBC America took over airing Doctor Who, Doctor Who was airing at the time on, well, this was actually in 2005. it wasn't even airing on the Sci-Fi Channel yet. Sci-Fi didn't pick it up until like late, I want to say 2006.
Yeah.
And well into the second season, or getting into the second season. And so at this point in my life, like it's 2005. Thankfully, we had the interwebs, and we were kind of forced to, like, a lot of American fans can probably attest to this, is that we were watching Doctor Who in 2005 by the sheer graces of the internet being able to torrent the episodes. And for me, I didn't torrent them, but I knew somebody who did, and they were kind enough to kind of burn them using DivX onto DVD recordables. So essentially what I was doing was getting Doctor Who in batches, like a disc here,
Bootleg,
a disc.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. The bootleg, the boot as bootleg as it gets.
Yeah.
And so when I finally got to see this episode, I was ecstatic. I just was like, wow, this was everything I want. And the Dalek was scary. The design was fantastic with that bronze look to it. It obviously looked like they spent money on it, as opposed to a lot of the later seasons of the classic era. And it was so menacing. It hadn't been menacing. Nobody had really been scared of a Dalek forever. And here we are. We it was so intimidating.
And Ken talked about when we were visiting, he said, you understand, it used to be a joke that, the Daleks, the most horrible, fierce enemy in the world, could be stopped by stairs.
Right.
And to see them hover, he said, was like, this is great. This is great. Now
I know I do want to point out, though, as now this is me being old school fan here.
Yeah.
This was not the first time we saw the Daleks.
No. And I want to make sure he didn't say that time.
Yeah.
He was telling me when we talked about the first time they did that.
Yeah, and that was in remembrance of the Daleks, the 1980, their last appearance in the classic era.
Yeah, it was
that was a big deal.
That was a huge deal, is what he was saying. Yeah, and I want to make sure Ken knew that. He was just telling me, so I'd understand. Now, how much did you know before you saw it? Because this is pre-Twitter, pre-Facebook, you had to go onto message boards, right?
Yeah, and this is probably like, I think where some of us were still using MySpace at this point. It was probably graduating over to Facebook at this point. Twitter wasn't even a factor.
Right.
In the much happier times of the internet before Twitter.
Yes.
And the trolls really ascended.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That it was, fans were excited. This was a big deal. Like we were emailing, obviously back then we were emailing instead of texting one another. And just the emails back and forth about how everybody was looking forward to this and posting on, message boards and whatnot, looking forward to this. And, it was obviously very well received, this story. And, I'm just glad it turned out so well.
Mm-hmm.
I really am.
Yeah, this was, like I said, I liked it back when I saw this 2008, 2009. Like I said, I wish I had been thought enough, but I had no idea. I just thought it was going to be another show I watched.
Yeah. Doctor Who was still breaking into America. It hadn't quite hit the mainstream at that point.
I knew that. Sorry to interrupt, but I knew.
No, go ahead.
You have always been very, Jesse. I really think if you watched Doctor Who, you'd enjoy it. And Ken had always said, "Hey, I really think if you watched it, you'll enjoy it." But both of you are so kind and so loving friends. You know, you didn't hold me down and so I will kill you if you don't watch Doctor Who.
Don't think I wasn't tempted.
So once, and then it truly was.
Well, we can't kill you because if we kill you, you won't learn nothing.
That's right. Yes. So I have to tell you that last night watching this thing, there's many things that I'm going to bring when we discuss your categories, but it was so much fun. All right.
It was. I mean, it was.
All right.
Yeah.
Themes, sir.
Themes. Well, first I want to run down the cast really quickly,
Okay.
and then we'll dive right into the themes. We get the introduction of Bruno Langley as Adam Mitchell in this story, the kind of companion that failed, essentially, because he's only in 2 stories, this one and the next one, The Long Game. We get
By the way,
yes,
are we going to talk specifically about him?
we don't have to. I mean, we are. Well, actually, I do want to talk about Rose, the Dalek, and Adam in our second segment.
All right, then I'm going to hold my spots.
Yeah. So we'll talk about Adam
Okay.
a little bit. We get the introduction of Corey Johnson as Henry Van Staten, our main villain of the story. And he's been in some interesting projects I wanted to mention. He was the chief warden in X-Men First Class movie. He was also in Kingsman: The Secret Service, which is a great movie, and also Kick-Ass. So he's had some previous comic book movie experience, which I thought I'd mention. Anna Louise Plowman, who played Diana Goddard, and she's really good in this. Very tall, very almost like supermodel-esque. And she actually voiced a 5th Doctor Big Finish audio, where she played a character named Dr. Jennifer Harrison in the Haliax Rift, which came out not too long ago. So if you want to get more of her on Doctor Who, you could do that. Or she's been on episodes of Stargate SG-1 and also the Star series Black Sails, if you're familiar with that sort.
Which is one on my I should watch that sometime list.
Black Sails?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty good. So I haven't checked it out myself, so I can't recommend it or unrecommend it.
Right.
Nigel Whitney, lastly, he played Simmons, the main scientist that was torturing the Dalek to try to get him to talk for Van Staten. He's been in some interesting projects. He was in the movie Saving Private Ryan, interestingly enough. And he was also in the Tim Burton's 2012 Dark Shadows remake, the film of Dark Shadows. And he was also in the movie London Has Fallen.
Okay.
So I thought I'd mention those.
Good.
If you want to kind of look for people as Easter eggs in these kind of movies. Or if you're a fan of those, you're like, I didn't realize he was in that. So topics, let's dive right into those as we move along. I do have a theme, but it's a very simple theme this week.
Okay.
Topic number 1, the War Games. And this I want to talk about the 9th Doctor and the Dalek. Because here we are, the first appearance of the Daleks in the modern era, and we have the Doctor who, at this point, we didn't know had just come out of the Time War, because we hadn't really gotten the Time War explained a whole lot. We were still in that, a lot of mystery about that. And presumably he thought the Daleks were all dead and murdered at the end of the Time War when he used the moment. But as it turns out, they're not all dead. And here he's faced with his first Dalek after the Time War, and there's a lot of trauma from the Time War that I think the 9th Doctor is still experiencing and going through. So what are your thoughts on the 9th Doctor facing the Dalek in the story?
So much to unpack, Charles.
Yes, that's why I want to lead off with it.
Yeah, first off, and I apologize, but I'm going to mention Ken a lot in this episode because this was before you and I were doing a podcast.
Yes.
So I was working with Ken. So I'm like, after I see this episode, I'm like, hey, Ken, can you give me the episodes of the Time War? I want to watch that series.
Well, don't we all?
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, that didn't happen. What do you mean?
Yeah.
He's like, that, we don't know what that is. This is, and I was like, what?
Right.
So first off, something that massive and to kind of explain so much about this Doctor, the 9th Doctor, and so much of the angst he has and the pain. I'm sorry to interrupt. Please do.
Regarding the Time War, before we move on, thankfully, Big Finish Audios has been tackling the Time War recently. Obviously, when we talked about the War Doctor, when John Hurt was still alive and still with us. He was doing War Doctor audios for
Yes.
Big Finish, set during the Time War.
Absolutely.
And sadly, he's passed, but we did get 12 great audios from him.
We did.
And now, Paul McGann, we're getting to explore the Eighth Doctor in the Time War for Big Finish audio. So I just want to recommend those.
Okay, good.
If you're not familiar, if you wanted to learn more about the Time War, I definitely recommend. I mean, obviously, it hasn't been documented yet really well on Doctor Who. We've got hints here and here. The Day of the Doctor was a big one where we got a lot. But check out the Big Finish audios. I recommend it.
And what a great job the showrunners and writers have done. Like when you look at the 50th anniversary special, it adds to but doesn't really change anything. It doesn't counteract anything that we'd seen. Like, Eccleston was vague enough in his performance when he says, "I killed them all, I had to,"
right? That
it fits in with the War Doctor sitting there looking at the big red button.
Yes.
And I just
Yeah, now we approach it from a different perspective after watching things like The Day of the Doctor.
Absolutely.
And when we go back to this story, and when this is why it's so much fun to go back to old stories.
Yeah.
Is that you kind of look through them with new eyes.
Yeah.
With a fresh perspective of watching, having more information.
And I say this with great love in my heart. You don't have to choose. Star Trek is what I grew up watching. I will always love Star Trek. Don't make me choose between the two. But you kind of have to wink the different ways they keep changing how the Klingons look.
Yeah.
The different technology because of the
makeup.
The makeup and all this stuff.
Prosthetics,
Yeah, and sometimes you just got to go, okay, that's a hand wave.
Right.
It would have been easy for them to have to do a hand wave on this, and they didn't. So the more I watch Eccleston episodes, the more I retroactively think he was the perfect actor to bring the Doctor back.
Right.
I just think
and it's why it's still so frustrating that we didn't at least get one more season from him.
Absolutely. And when he smiles, that goofy grin, there is some sadness behind those eyes.
Well, we see a lot of that. We see a lot of one of the things that I find most interesting about this episode is really this is the first time we really get to experience the Ninth Doctor's rage and anger, and there's a lot of obviously trauma from that Time War. That if you remember when we're told in the Day of the Doctor that when the War Doctor regenerated into the Ninth Doctor, it was during the Time War, and then there's all this blood and anger that carry through into this incarnation. So it wasn't really until he started regenerating into David Tennant's 10th Doctor that some of that went away.
Yeah.
This Doctor is a very angry Doctor at times, and he's full of fire and rage and burns like the night, and all that poetic stuff. And here we get to see that in display.
Yeah.
At first he's kind of frightened by the Dalek, but then he's this anger builds up inside him, and it's ultimately to the point where he's willing to take it out with a gun, and a big old gun, and which is like right there. That should be a warning sign. The Doctor using a gun. What's up with this? And Rose, eventually, and we'll talk about Rose here in a minute. Rose comes between him and the Dalek, and she doesn't recognize the Doctor at this point because he's never been this angry before.
And you mentioned trauma. I really do see some PTSD.
Whatever the Time Lord version of PTSD is.
Yeah. Very much. it was to see him so angry and so traumatized, and the idea that he puts down the bunker
Right.
because he's so afraid of this Dalek.
He's actually willing to sacrifice Rose.
Yes.
Reluctantly. Now, he doesn't do it willingly.
No.
But he realizes that ultimately the Dalek is so much of a threat.
Yeah.
That he's willing to do what has to be done and sacrifice Rose to save others from the Dalek.
Yeah. So I love seeing this anger and and what great dialogue.
Were you shocked?
Oh, I was so shocked. I was so shocked at seeing the Doctor this angry and this. This
was very startling to me too, because we had seen the Doctor be angry before here and there, but not to this degree. Mm-hmm. This is new.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like, I did not have the shock of. I now understand this is like Batman picking up an AK-47, and like, okay,
this is a big deal.
All I just lock and load, it was. And to know that now my nitpick is, how come it's always one of the last Daleks and they still are out there,
Yeah. It's just more like, that, this one we're explained or we're told is that somehow it fell through time. Like something happened, and because of the Time War, we don't know exactly what, but somehow it fell through a hole in time, separated from the others.
And when you would make a very good Dalek.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that carried into the Capaldi era.
Yes.
With Into the Dalek, if you remember that story with Rusty. That Rusty recognizing that the Doctor has a lot of very Dalek-like qualities to him.
Yes.
And maybe that's part of why. Maybe that's why there's that animosity between the Doctor and the Daleks, is that they're kind of two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I do think
the Doctor isn't about racial hatred and impurity and all that, but there's the rage there. That it's like he's angry because of what the Daleks have done, and the Daleks are angry for a completely different reason, but they're kind of that violence there, that penchant for violence is there.
And there is so much the arrogance and the anger of the Daleks and the Time Lords are the reason why, this was such an ugly war, and why the Doctor did what he had to do.
Right.
Just wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and obviously Eccleston is so great at that rage. He's such a compelling character, and then ultimately he kind of realizes after Rose points it out to him what he's become, and it's there he kind of like finally checks himself and is willing to allow that Dalek to come out into the sunlight, and it was a pretty big moment, and Eccleston does such a great job in this story.
Yeah, he does, and I know we're going to move on.
Yeah.
But this also sets up perfect when you see the Doctor dances.
Yeah.
And where the joy that today no one dies.
Right.
He has seen so much death.
And again, that's the trauma, I think, is that, hey, today we didn't kill anybody. That's awesome. So I feel pretty good. Is that joy and ebullience, and just that just the happiness comes through.
Yeah, I really do think we should look at some more Eccleston episodes. I know there was only the one. one season, and we've already talked about several of them.
Yes, we have.
But this was
There's
just
still-
so well done.
Yeah, there's still a few left. Obviously,
Yeah.
we can go through. So
And I did catch the name of the helicopter was Bad Wolf.
right,
I
so
would
that's-
not have caught that the first time, and so that was very cool.
Yeah, it comes through. Yeah, that's
All right.
run through every the episodes throughout the entire season. So those little Easter eggs. So that's pretty funny. All right, let's move on to topic number 2.
Yes.
The Beast Below. So we have the War Games and the Beast Below.
Okay.
So if you're a good Doctor Who fan, you should have figured out the theme for this week.
Okay.
So here I want to talk about Rose, the Dalek again, and Adam Mitchell. And Rose and Adam being a little flirty with one another. And so this is your opportunity to talk about Adam Mitchell. And also Rose is reaching out to the Dalek. And ultimately, one of the things I want to point out, Rose being indirectly responsible for the deaths of hundreds of people because of what she did.
Yeah. But hey,
because
let's.
This is like, don't touch the Dalek. She touches the Dalek.
Yeah.
The Dalek comes to life and murders hundreds of soldiers and whatnot and people in the base. Yeah. So well done, Rose.
Yeah. First off, you forget how young Rose is.
Yes.
They
She's still
talk
like
about
maybe all of 18 or something. At
Yeah,
this
I
point.
think she mentioned she's 19. And the Billie Piper is a good companion.
Right.
I mean, there is just and so it was good to see that. What bothered me the most, what I wanted to discuss, is Adam's arc.
Okay.
When the next episode we
Yeah, the
find
long
out
game.
he's not a very necessarily a good person.
Yeah, he's a bit selfish.
Yes.
He's not. Yeah, and that's probably one of the reasons why he fails as a companion.
Right.
And the Doctor just abruptly is like, you're not going with us. We're dropping you off, pal.
Yeah. Because that was shocking to me.
Yes.
Because I pictured
we'll probably need to talk about when we talk about the long game.
Yeah, exactly.
But at this point, he's just more flirting with Rose, and he's just some English whiz kid that Van Staten picked up.
Yeah. So, and Rose's compassion for the Dalek, because she has by her short travels with the Doctor, and at this point we don't know how long in show time this has been. It's been 6 episodes, but we don't be.
There may have been other missing adventures in between episodes.
Yeah. She's expanded her mind. She is, the wonder of the universe. In fact, she's having a lot of fun where Adam's talking about things and she's kind of deliberately playing coy.
Well, it's to Rose's credit that she's not afraid of the Dalek.
No, I love that.
She actually is being very compassionate, and she sees this thing. She doesn't have the Doctor's history with the Dalek.
No.
So she's coming at it as like, okay, there's this creature there, and it's chained up, and Van Staten and his goons are torturing it.
Yeah.
So I want to help it.
Yeah,
and
me too.
So her motives are pure here, but it's just kind of like the I don't want to say naivete, but just lack of awareness that leads her into trouble, and the Dalek getting free and killing all those people.
Yeah.
So again, it's not her fault directly. It's just something that happened, and Rose, is actually a bit. She's the first to really realize, and obviously more so than the Doctor, that the Dalek is evolving, because as we find out through the course of the story, the Dalek had absorbed her human DNA and that gave it that kind of boost to regenerate itself, for lack of a better word. And as a result, though, it kind of mutated in having emotions, human emotions and feelings. And this is obviously something a little different from what the Daleks that I had seen in the past.
Yes.
But it made the Dalek actually a somewhat sympathetic character in this story.
Yes, it was very much sympathetic, and of course
this gooey ball of hate inside this Dalek tank is actually like, well, you can actually kind of feel for this a little bit.
And since I had never seen a Dalek, I was a little shocked.
Right.
That seeing the creature inside, that it was, this shell. I had no.
You had no idea what to imagine.
Yeah. I just thought the Dalek was itself alive. That was just the creature.
Yeah.
And then to see that, and the sadness, even though it had killed all these people, it was really touching, and I think because I was watching it through Rose's eyes, and Rose's empathy.
Rose-colored glasses, shall we say?
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Well done.
See what I did there?
I like that. And then with her giving them what they want by, the order's given. We'll say it.
Yeah.
And then a really cool self-destruct sequence. Seeing all the little balls go out and make a sphere.
Yeah, that was new. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah.
That was just the kind of where we just thought they were just decoration on the Dalek, but it turns out they actually have a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's a credit to Russell T Davies.
Yeah.
And Robert Shearman for kind of coming up with that.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, very cool. And one of the things I liked about the Dalek in this modern era, obviously the Dalek's plunger has been a source of jokes for decades.
Right.
Basically it's instead of hands, it has like an egg whisk, and it has a plunger on it and on it as hands. And here, for the first time, that plunger is actually used menacingly. You kind of like, okay, well, it's a little more. It's something I should kind of respect a little more.
Yeah.
There's that line that Simmons goes like, "What are you going to do? Sucker me to death?" And the Dalek does just that.
Exactly.
It takes its plunger right on his face and kills him right there, and then later uses that plunger to plug into the internet and absorb the internet. I don't know how that happens, but okay, absorb the internet, which means it probably got a lot of cat videos and porn. So
yes, absolutely.
So you gotta wonder what the Dalek thought of all that. But just that it gave it so much more capability and as a functioning tool, as opposed to just a silly little prop on the design, which I really liked.
Yes.
All right. So I thought that was cool. And Adam, just real quick, that there was that bit where the Doctor's closing the doors to seal the Dalek in before it can get out. And you notice Adam's running way faster than Rose.
Yes.
He doesn't stop to help her.
No.
He just runs and it's like, and he does his little Indiana Jones move and rolls under the door just as it closes.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really stop to think about Rose, and Rose doesn't really realize this. She just thinks he's cute.
Yes.
And the Doctor kind of points that out, is like, oh yeah, you think he's pretty, which is why she wants him to become a companion. But
I love that he called him pretty.
Yeah.
I just thought that was great.
Yeah, that was good. All right. Anything else about Rose, Dalek, and Adam before we move on?
Nope.
All right. Third and final topic: human nature. So we had the War Games, the Beast Below, and Human Nature. Yes, they're all Doctor Who story titles. That's the theme.
Yes.
So if you didn't get that, shame on you.
Exactly.
It was an easy one, I thought.
I was wondering, though, I was deeping into, were they all certain season episodes? Were they all Dalek episodes? I was looking for a deeper thought.
No. It's me.
No connection. Okay.
There's no depth there.
Okay.
It's me. So here I want to talk about Henry Van Staten and Diana Goddard. I like you, Diana Goddard. Van Statten's obsession with taking alien artifacts and essentially turning them into something he can make money off of, and the Doctor's reaction to that. So what did you think about Van Statten as the villain of the story?
At the time, he just seemed like another blowhard,
Right.
rich guy. We've seen it tons, all the way back to this latest season. We had the Trump-like character,
the Trump
with North, the actor.
Yeah.
So I there were some funny lines like
essentially he's like evil Bill Gates, as we're told.
like he owns the internet. No one owns the internet, and let's make sure everyone keeps thinking that.
Yeah.
And the nice scene between the Doctor and him about the musical instrument.
You notice the Doctor is just like showing him how to use that.
Yeah.
And then Statten's like, oh, hey, okay, this is how you do that, and then he just completely flings it, throws it away. Like, oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Fling, like he doesn't care about it.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the importance of it. He's just like, oh, that's all it does? Well, I don't need this then.
Yeah, he just chunks it.
Yeah, like I can't make money off this. Screw this.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the Doctor is understandably appalled by him.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where like once the Doctor knows that Van Statten has a creature chained up, a living trophy, if you will, that's one of the things that really sets him on edge.
And we get the scenes where he fires the guy just for arguing with them, and the whole drop him off with a city that starts with I can't remember what letter. Yeah, whatever. And then later at the end, she does the same thing to him. Stop him of a city that starts with an S.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Goddard. So at the end of the story, after everything, because of all the Van Statten selfishness,
right,
and ego and arrogance, apparently that this is the breaking. After all the deaths, Goddard blames him, not the Dalek, and she takes over. She uses that as a power move. Now, I don't know how noble her intentions were, or whether she was just ambitious enough to see an opportunity to take him off the board and seize power. But it worked.
I have that's a little bit of a hand wave, because you would think he'd have a board of directors.
Yeah.
You would think, or if it's a personal, it's a little bit wonky that she would be able to take him off power that much.
And everybody, all the other soldiers are just like, oh, whatever you say, Ms. Goddard, we're right along with you, no problem.
Yeah. So, a little bit of weirdness on that, but that's okay.
Yeah. And the thing I find most interesting about Van Statten and his arrogance here is that he's so obsessed with making the Dalek talk.
Yes.
Or what he calls the Metaltron. Because it won't talk to him, so he doesn't know what to call it. So he comes up with his own name, and he's all like, well, that's good, rather good, isn't it? And it's like, well, that's not really that good of a name, but okay, whatever.
He's very arrogant.
And so the fact that the Dalek doesn't talk to him upon command bothers him really badly.
Yes, it does.
And, because he's such a control freak and feels like he should have power over this thing. And the Dalek isn't giving him what he wants, and I found that whole thing rather interesting. And then he gets really mad at the Doctor because the Dalek will talk to him, but not Van Statten. Like he'll talk to the Doctor, and we get that frustrates him too.
We get a nice payoff with the Doctor, the Dalek saying, "Oh, you want to hear me talk? Okay."
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah, that was good. All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
Did not know, and I'm sure you got a kick out of seeing the Cyberman
head. Yes.
Yes.
A little trivia. That was from the Tom Baker era. Revenge of the Cybermen. That was Tom Baker's, I believe, 5th story. and one right after Genesis of the Daleks, and so that was kind of a nice little nod to the past. And we also got like a Slitheen arm and some other things in there. So there's a lot of Easter eggs for Doctor Who fans.
Absolutely.
That was cool.
No, but nothing else.
All right. Okay. So do you have any favorite quotes of the episode? There's some pretty good lines in this one.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah. When the Dalek says, "I feel your fear," Rose is like, "What do you expect? Daleks do not fear, must not fear." And he shoots, he gives like a warning shot. "You gave me life. What else have you given me? I am contaminated." The idea that he picked up her DNA, but he also picked up some of her emotions.
Yeah.
He's so just confused, and he feels dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I liked the scene between the Doctor and Van Staten early on, where the Doctor goes, "The Dalek race was genetically engineered. Every single emotion was removed except for hate." And Van Staten replies, "Genetically engineered? By whom?" And the Doctor replies, and he's obviously talking about Davros here.
Yes.
He goes, "By a genius, Van Staten, by a man who is king of his own little world. You'd like him."
Yeah.
Nice little cheap shot there at Van Statten's expense. Do you have any more?
Yeah. There's a nice. The Doctor and Diana and Staten are talking, and the Doctor said, they're talking about the Dalek. "How did it get to Earth? Does anyone know?" And Diane Goddard says, "Records say it came from the sky like a meteorite. It fell to Earth on the Ascension Islands, burned in its crater for 3 days before anyone could get near it, and all the time it was screaming. It must have gone insane." And the Doctor goes, "It must have fallen through time, the only survivor." And Diana says, "You talked about a war, the Time War, the final battle between my people and the Dalek race." And Staten, "But you survived too, not by choice."
Yeah,
and there's so much sadness in that.
Right.
Choice.
And you're just like, tell me about the Time War.
Yes. Like I said, I went, "Hey, Ken, I want to see those discs."
Yeah. I still think the Time War is probably Russell T Davies' greatest contribution to Doctor Who.
Yes.
It was such a compelling plot line and the mystery of it, and it helps make the Doctor more enigmatic again. And I really liked that. I thought it was
well,
really...
and it explains
why the Doctor, this incarnation, is the way he is.
Yeah, and also in real world there was the break, right? The BBC decided,
right?
And so
the wilderness years, yeah.
And so instead of coming back, you're like, okay, let's use this break to reset and add the Doctor up another level, and not only in special effects, not only in writing, but in character depths. And don't get me wrong, there is much to love about the classic Who era, but because of this basis of that they are survivors of the Time War, especially the first couple of Doctors, Echo, the 9th and 10th Doctor, and a little bit on the 11th. By that time, he's starting to heal.
Yeah.
I mean, you could almost think as the 9th and 10th Doctor was therapy, regenerations to get through the PTSD.
Yeah. Well, for the sake of time, I'm going to use just one more quote.
Okay.
This is between the Dalek and the Doctor during their first encounter.
Okay.
Where the Dalek's going, "I demand orders," and the Doctor replies, "Well, they're never going to come. Your race is dead. You all burned, all of you. 10 million ships on fire. The entire Dalek race wiped out in 1 second." The Dalek replies, "You lie." And the Doctor replies, "I watched it happen. I made it happen." Gets all up in his grill. And just this, you see the Doctor just burning with rage at that moment. And just that, I loved it. I thought it was such a great scene.
Very nice. And this playlist is brought to you by Next Stop Everywhere, where Charles does voices. Just a great episode.
With so-so effect.
No, that was not bad. Those were good.
Yeah.
All right, you got a rating?
Yeah, my rating. I love this episode. 9 out of 10 chained Metaltrons.
I am
love.
tempted to give this 10 out of 10.
Notice I didn't say Daleks. I thought it was a little.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
chained Metaltron.
I I love this episode too. I'm going to be a little bit higher.
Okay.
I'm going to get it in a half. 9.5 musical alien musical instruments.
Okay.
This was just awesome.
So now I'm dying to know, what's the half point that you take off for not being perfect?
Not
making this one perfect in your eyes.
Just because I really, really save 10 out of 10s for just what's the 1 point off year?
Well, for me, I think it's just that it's still early on in Doctor Who, and that there was some issues I have with how the Doctor should have been able to get Rose away from the Dalek, and the fact that the Doctor is just so angry. I think.
I think my nitpick
and using the gun, I thought I was a little too quick to that, but that's me.
My problem would be the way they
minor sticking points for me.
Van Stanton being taken out.
Yeah,
that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a great story, but it doesn't make you go like, oh my god, I can't believe what I just watched.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's still like it's a 9 out of 10. That's it's a great episode.
Exactly. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. That's a solid A in my book.
Absolutely.
All right. Quick reverse the polarity segment as we reverse.
Nice.
We reverse the polarity of the neutron flow back to 1963 because, well, hey, the Dalek was the first modern appearance of the Daleks, so why not go back to the Daleks? The very first appearance of the Daleks back in 1963, the second serial of Season 1 in 1963, written by Dalek creator Terry Nation, which introduced the Daleks in the story. So if you like their first appearance in the modern era, check out their very first appearance in the classic era. That's my recommendation. So we have the TARDIS landing in a petrified jungle, if you remember the story, where the first Doctor insists that they explore a futuristic city they spot beyond the forest. But Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright are not really feeling it. In the forest, meanwhile, something touches Susan's shoulder. The Doctor doesn't believe her, though. And so something's out there. And then later they find a box of vials found just outside the TARDIS. And the Doctor claims that the fluid link of the TARDIS is running low on mercury, which always, of course, turns out to be a ruse by the Doctor just so he could be curious about something. And so they, quote unquote, forced to go to the city in search of more mercury. Barbara becomes separated from her colleagues in the city and is threatened by an unseen creature with a long metal arm and a plunger-like hand. And before long, the entire crew is captured by unseen creatures in operating tank-like machines that, of course, are the Daleks. And Susan is eventually sent to retrieve anti-radiation drugs because everybody who exposed to the radioactive atmosphere has been kind of slowly dying of radiation poisoning. And the Doctor realizes that, hey, that's what that box was that was left for us outside the TARDIS. So Susan goes and encounters a second species called the Thals, who used to be at war with the Daleks. The Thal who left the drugs reveals that he is the one that encountered Susan in the forest, and Susan tries to broker peace between the Thals and the Daleks, and while at first it seems to work, the Daleks, of course, betray the Thals. Surprise, opening fire on them at what was supposed to be a peaceful exchange of food. The Daleks attempt to use the anti-radiation drugs, but discover they're fatal to Daleks. The Daleks realize that, hey, we need more radiation to survive, and they start deciding to bombard the atmosphere with more radiation. In the ensuing chaos, the Doctor and his companions escape with the Thals and learn their version of history on the planet, and that the Thals are actually avowed pacifists. After kind of motivating the Thals, They realize that they're unable to leave Skaro, however, after the fluid link was taken by the Daleks. In order to save them from the Daleks, the TARDIS crew convinces the Thals of the importance of aggression and warfare and manages to lead the Thals in a successful attack against the Daleks. At the end, it's believed that the Dalek race has been destroyed when their power supply has been knocked out. Well, of course, it's not the end, as we all know. And the TARDIS crew finally leaves Skaro, but a small explosion in the TARDIS soon renders all of them unconscious. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
That, of course, leads into the Edge of Destruction, which we talked about not too long ago here. It's one of our special guest companions. Mm-hmm. And great story with that. But that's so, yeah, go back and watch the original Dalek story. It's a classic.
Very good.
Highly recommended. We do have some feedback.
Nice.
We've got Holly, of course, from Wisconsin, Holly, I have to give special credit to Holly here because she's already sent in feedback for our next few episodes.
Nice.
She's on it. She's as soon as we announce them, she's like watching them and then giving us her feedback. So thank you, Holly. I really appreciate that. Appreciate all your hard work. So Holly writes in, hey, Charles and Jesse. Forgot how such a good episode that this was to reintroduce the Daleks. Henry Van Staten, typical rich bad guy who's not going to take no for an answer. Also, the "you would make a good Dalek" line to the Doctor is said, and it gets brought up a few times in the later series. You know, we talked about that, but in the Capaldi era. Mm-hmm. I don't blame the Doctor in the least for his reaction to the Dalek and to Van Staten. He's gone through the Time War and has had his fill of the Dalek, and then him thinking that he's lost Rose would make it. I would be angry as well. The scene with the Dalek and Rose in the sunlight was touching, and then Rose standing up for the Dalek and was saying that it's changed, and what is he, the Doctor, changing into? Yeah, that was a big moment. Mm-hmm. We talked about, and Van Staten getting his just desserts by getting his mind wiped. Why wouldn't I be too surprised if Goddard got recruited either by Unit or Torchwood later on? That's interesting.
Yeah.
That would have been good. And we also start the arc with Adam and him not being as innocent as he makes himself out later on down the line. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
Always great to hear from you, Holly. Thank you so much. And then we also got feedback from a new listener to Next Stop Everywhere.
Nice.
So we got welcome Tara, or is it Tara? I'm going to go with Tara. And I apologize if I screwed this up. Tara in North Canton, Ohio. So Buckeye State getting some love, and I'm really happy about that. So
yes.
Bring more Buckeye State love, everybody. So Tara writes in, hey, Karen, Jesse, and Charles. Sadly, Karen's unfortunately not here, but hopefully we'll get her back someday soon.
Yes.
But in the meantime, Jesse and Charles are here. Tara goes, I've been listening to you guys for the past couple of weeks. Thank you so much for checking us out, Tara. I really appreciate that.
Yay.
I've been finding multiple podcasts that talk about Doctor Who, and this was my most recent one that I started. First, I just want to say I'm a new Whovian. I came along with Jodie because a friend had told me she was similar to another character I really liked. I knew about Doctor Who for the past couple of years or more and only saw Blink in the first episode of Christopher Eccleston series prior to Series 11. I've absolutely loved Jodie and definitely enjoyed the past 10 series. I did go back and watch them all. Nice. Yep. I can't stop at just one. I could see the difference in Chris Chibnall's series after I saw the others, but I still think it holds as a pretty good series. I'm just starting. It takes you away of your podcast review. Well, that's awesome. So you're going through our Series 11 stuff. Hope you're enjoying that. Let's see. I actually commented on a Doctor Who Instagram page about which episodes were your favorite of this past season. I got a response from somebody saying that was probably me, saying you must be. Oh wait, no, that wasn't me. Somebody saying you must be American. This series was S bleep, and yeah, that definitely wasn't me. I think he was looking for me to respond with frustration and retaliation. What I said was, it's in my opinion, and there were a couple of episodes I wasn't fond of with Series 11 that other people enjoyed. Told him that there are different strokes for different folks and that it doesn't matter. He responded, yes, that's true. I mean, did I really have to say that? Well, kudos to you, Tara, for sticking up for yourself. And don't be ashamed of loving Doctor Who. Never be ashamed of that. In my opinion. Let's see, really quick. She has kind of a long email here, so I'm going to kind of truncate this. So apologies for that. But she did say, anyway, the other reason I messaged you guys was I listened to the Kerblam episode, and I know you're talking about the bubble wrap, and we're trying to make a reason why the bubble wrap that Ryan popped was not part of the exploding bubble wrap. I think the simple answer is that Charlie had been testing it on the people at the facility, and he was preparing for a massive distribution at the same time. That's why all those Kerblam men were waiting to go out, and they had all the exploding bubble wrap in their packages. He was doing one large attack at the same time rather than random ones at once. The place would have been shut down prior to that, with not much damage if you had just done just one at a time. And the system had known of his plot, so they were crying out for help because of the workers that were disappearing. So, all right, that's good insight, I think. Let's see. She talks about how she's a big Jodie fan, and she'll watch as many movies and interviews that she's done. And then she also goes on to recommend that if you want to hear a great interview with Jodie, try the David Tennant Does a Podcast With series, because, of course, she was on that. And also the Two Shot podcast she recommends.
Good. All right. Very nice.
Yep. So she also sends a picture of this series that she was in, St. Trinian's. So if you're familiar with Jodie Whittaker and St. Trinian's, she also sent a picture of that. So that was very cute.
Very cool.
She goes, thanks for reading all of this. I kind of rambled. That's okay. We ramble here. That's what we do. That's how we turned it into
what we do.
We turned it into a podcast. So she goes, have a great day, Tara, in North Canton, Ohio. So thank you, Tara.
Yay. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a little long. I tried to truncate that a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah.
She was enthusiastic, and I love you. And thank you so much for checking out our show, Tara. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, that warms my heart.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
right.
Charles, if someone else wants to give us feedback, how can they?
So if you want to be like Holly and Tara, please do so. Drop us a line here at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. Or you can reach us on the Twitter at nextstopsmg. We'd love to have you do that. And Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Please do that. We'd love to have you do that because that helps people find us as we grow our audience. And also, if you want to reach us on the Instagram, Next Stop Everywhere podcast on the Instagram. Please check that out. And Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you?
Well, you can hear Charles and I talk about the DC Universe Direct web series.
Yep.
We did Titan Talk is the name of the podcast. We talked about Titans. We are now in the middle of talking Doom Patrol, a very odd yet mostly fun series.
It's a great series. And Jesse's underselling that one. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. We're recording this after we did an episode that I did not like as much as Charles. But yes, even awesome. Us discussing the series is a lot of fun. You can hear me on Small Council Matters on the Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV network, where I, Christine, friend of the show and frequent co-host, Shannon and Wendy all talk the final season of Game of Thrones. But
please check that out, everybody.
Yeah. In fact, we will. I just posted on my Facebook page my who I think is going to die in, as we're recording this, tonight's episode of Game of Thrones, which is the Winterfell battle. Yep. And I have a lot of people dying tonight. Yep. And then I do my Set Listing Bruce, a Bruce Springsteen podcast, where I talk with Bruce Springsteen fans around the world. And Charles, how about you?
Well, how about me? Obviously, you can reach me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter or at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. And my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, including Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish audios, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news. Hopefully I'm going to be having my review of Avengers Endgame up soon. Spoilers, that was awesome. Also awesome. And, any kind of news of my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. We're currently talking Doom Patrol. And also Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast, where Zan Sprouse, who was recently on just the previous episode here, Next Stop Everywhere, we talk Twin Peaks, David Lynch, anything of that nature, and obviously a lot of occasional Simpsons references because Zan is a huge Simpsons geek.
Nice.
And we talk about that. So if you enjoyed Zan, and I hope everybody did here at Next Stop Everywhere, please check us out on Ghostwood because we're pretty much more of the same there. So if you enjoyed that here, you'll definitely enjoy us there. And other than that, that's about it. Also, please go to iTunes, rate and review us because that helps people find us. And also go to the Southgate Media group page and please support the Patreon there because that helps keep the lights on, helps Rob Southgate get our episodes out to you guys on the interwebs.
And no one has sent us a picture of them in our Next Stop Everywhere T-shirt. We have, we'd love to see someone in that.
Yeah, we need to get the new design.
Yeah, we do.
Because I want a shirt with the new design. So we
that
have to
would
talk
be
about that.
good.
Rob's kind of on vacation at the moment, so
Yes,
we
he
need
is.
to kind of talk about that and see if we can make that happen. Because we need shirts, new
Yes,
shirts.
we do. Hoping that
With the spiffy Jodie Whittaker era font.
yes, Karen is supposedly,
Yeah.
we're begging her to put out the episode while Rob's on vacation.
I want to give special, like Karen obviously hasn't been here at the show, but for those who don't know, she's doing some behind the scenes work. She's helping us out with our posting, and so she is contributing to the show. She's just sadly she's not here on the podcast, and I'd miss her terribly. I would love to talk to her again. It's been way too long. So hopefully she'll come back. But she's got her life that she's got to focus on right now.
Absolutely.
All right. Next time, though, right here, next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to go bring back a previous special guest companion once again, Lee Leonard, who talked about Inferno here on Next Stop Everywhere, is coming back. And we're going to talk about The Girl Who Waited.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Which, if you remember, that was from the Matt Smith era, and is a really great spotlight story for Karen Gillan as Amy Pond. If you remember.
And Rory.
And Rory.
Really nice.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really fun one to talk about. It's one I haven't watched for a while, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. And we're going to kind of jump ahead a couple of doctors and hit into the Matt Smith era once again. So please check that out here.
Nice.
Episode 141. So, Jesse, anything else?
Nope. As always, a lot of fun talking. Thank you for keeping the new episodes coming as I'm kind of taking care of some family stuff.
Right.
And we'll be talking again in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep.
I think we already have a plan. I think we're doing a classic episode next time.
Yeah, we kind of announced this already, I think. Maybe not. But Jesse will be returning in about a month. And currently we're planning to talk The Fires in Pompeii.
Yes.
That won't be till episode 143. So we got a little ways to get to that one. So just come back in a month for that one. But please come back next week as we talk The Girl Who Waited, because I think that's going to be a really good one to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, please do that. And Jesse, any quote leading us out?
No, I'm out of habit having quotes, so sorry.
No problem.
All right, so
Go ahead.
hey, Charles, I'm having so much fun why don't we take a break and then come back and talk again?
Yeah, I think we'll do that. Yeah, only this time we're going to talk Titan Talk. So
Yeah.
want to kind of find out what happens to the rest of our discussion. Come check out, Titan Talk episode 31. And otherwise, we will see you next time right here. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, as we talk The Girl Who Waited. It's going to be fun, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.